Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here with my man John Fitch. Mixed Martial Mindset is back, Jack.
What's going on?
We are going to be focusing today on this article I wrote for the River City Reader, Top 5 Domestic Tyranny Steps Enacted by the U.S. Government After September 11th, 2001, as the anniversary, the 21st anniversary, has just passed us. We're even going to get into the UFC 279 conspiracy towards the end. And
Lots of conspiracies there. Lots of lot of shenanigans, and all the nonsense about them saving the card and oh my god, they did a great job. It sucked. It was a terrible card.
I'll say this.
I did not enjoy it.
Well, you
And
know,
I think they screwed up a lot of those guys' careers just for what?
I think that Ferguson and
But I have my own opinion on I think what they're playing next, what their next hand is going to be.
Well, I'm not sure that my audience. Well, obviously, let's do it. I mean, we talk about all these type of things. Let's just talk about that first, and then we'll get into 9/11 and a lot more. Chiamev was out at a restaurant the night before,
drinking, laughing. He laughed on the scale. It was all a big joke.
Well, just think about this, folks. He wasn't really cutting weight. He took a picture with a fan, little Khabib. I don't know if you've seen that picture, but in it, little Khabib, who's a girl, I think she's like a teenage girl, said she thought it was weird, and she was like wondering why he was drinking Perrier water and eating food the night before a weight cut. Hey, John, you're a professional fighter. You're a big fucking dude for 170. Is there any point in your career the night before the weigh-in you were drinking Perrier water and eating at a restaurant?
I mean, it really does depend on what he was eating and the amounts he was eating. That does matter because you can't. It's one of the bad things. So my book, Weight Cut Bible, I have a book about weight cutting. It's the best book you can buy on weight cutting. Okay, the thing with cutting weight correctly is you can't deprive your body of nutrients. If you're depriving your body of nutrients it needs, you're going to be weak. You're not going to perform well. So you have to keep consuming good food. You still have to have stuff in your body, So that night, before the weigh-in, before the official weigh-in, I will eat a little bit of food. I will eat a little bit of food, depending on how far my weight has come down and how much I have left will depend on how much food I get. It'll be anywhere from a pound to a pound and a half of food that I can put in my body. I think one time I lost so much weight, I was able to eat like 2 pounds of stuff. And what that translates into is like 6 ounces to 8 ounces of some kind of fluid, and then like steak or chicken and a little bit of rice or something like that. Maybe a little bit of vegetables I eat the vegetables because the vegetables, or I'll get some fruit like afterwards because that'll help keep me regular. It'll help me shit in the morning, basically. Okay. And that's a little bit extra weight in the morning to make sure that I'm going to make the weight. So it is possible to eat that night. So I did, for the last part of my career, when I really got my diet and stuff dialed in after 2016, when I won my welterweight title, that's when I started being able to eat, I guess I always did eat a little bit. It wasn't a lot though. And it's not like I'm pounding Perrier waters. It was like literally never more than 8 ounces of liquid.
But to make it clear,
like I would weigh it out. I would hold my food and stand on the scale in my bathroom to be like, okay, I can put all this in my body and I'm still in the range.
But to be clear, you've never come in 8 pounds overweight, correct? When you were on the scale.
I never missed. I missed my first time I fought Thiago Alves. I missed the first time, and then I made weight in less than an hour after.
Gotcha.
I went to the bathroom and tried to throw up, and then trying to make myself throw up. I didn't throw up at all. I had nothing in me, but the gagging made me sweat. Like I broke a sweat, and I sweated off the last of the weight I needed to.
Well, again, you look at how they canceled the press conference. We've now all seen the altercation that happened.
Well, one of them, we saw part of one of the altercations with Chimaev kicking Holland in the stomach. And my big thing on this, I talked about it on the podcast last night. I put up one of my clips, John Fitch, JK, JFKN clips channel. I have a clips channel for my podcast. I put a clip up today, or it's coming out like around 3:30. When I talk about it, Any other sport, think of any other professional sport, an actual professional sport where two of the pro athletes get into a skirmish backstage or something at a game and one of them kicks the other one. What's going to happen? What happens to those guys? Do you think they get to compete still? Like, where's the commission on all this? Did the commission say anything? Pull their fucking licenses.
And
if I'm a commissioner, if I'm the state athletic commission and two of the guys get in a fight backstage, your license is gone.
And at the same
You're
time,
gone.
it's odd that
Period.
Holland
Like
weighs in.
there was
pound.
no even discussion about that from the commission. The commission does nothing. They do nothing. They work for the UFC.
Well, I mean, if you look at the Fertitta brothers and Lorenzo really being on that whole gravy train before even getting the UFC and having those connections, it certainly makes sense. The fight was in Vegas at the T-Mobile Center. It just coincidentally set up this Chimaev Holland fight where they both weighed in at within a pound of each other, which is also odd.
It was at a catchweight. So the whole card in the beginning was garbage and it wasn't selling well. It wasn't a popular card. People didn't want to see it because people liked Diaz and they didn't want to see him get ragdolled and beat up by Chimaev. So it wasn't selling well. So I think a big part of this was them shaking things up just because they weren't gonna make any money on the card.
Well, I also think that it may have been some type of a backdoor deal with Nate Diaz. I mean, if you listen to him after he won that fight, he talked about still wanting to be in the UFC. Obviously,
that's where I think it's going. I think that's why they did what they did. They can't have Diaz get out there and just ripped and destroyed by Chimaev and then build up the Conor Diaz 3 trilogy. They can't do it. We're sitting in a situation right now where Nate Diaz is a free agent. Conor McGregor, because of the 5-year sunset clause that has now been put into their contracts since 2017, thanks to guys like me who filed the class action lawsuit. It's the only reason that happened. He's free agent like within a year. So Conor could sit and hang out on his yacht for a year, and then Diaz and Conor could promote their own event, headline their own event themselves, keep 100% of all the money made, and they would make a shitload of money.
Well, that would be a huge draw. We all know how I feel about McGregor. I don't even want to get into that. Let's move the focus. Let's get
well,
into...
let's talk about the rest of the stuff that's screwed up about this. Okay,
go ahead.
Because you have, first off, it was weird. There was multiple catchweight fights on the card, which is strange to me.
I've never seen that many catchweight.
I've never seen that many catchweight fights on a card.
There was even a really
there were
weird
girls
one
earlier in the prelims and stuff.
Yeah, there was a really weird one where they weren't quite heavyweights and they didn't make 205.
Yeah,
and I was like, are they fishing for maybe a cruiserweight division? This is something we've talked about where maybe you do have a 220 division, but then you up the heavyweight division, say to 230 to 285, maybe even 300, right? And that didn't happen. It was a really bizarre overall.
Yeah. Well, no, that was I mean, no, we did. We that was something else that MMAFA had a hand in. Was there was an adoption of a new weight classes, but the UFC said no. So everybody else just kind of stuck with that. Like the ABC Athletic or whatever, the boxing commission, like put it forward, announced like new weight classes, but like UFC ignored it because they're more powerful than all the commissions in the boxing commission, or for some reason.
Yeah, it's so weird how that works, that the UFC seems to have what many would consider a monopoly on the sport. Although I've seen some news.
They easily have a monopoly on the sport. They own the only title anybody wants.
You know,
every other title is a stepping stone to the UFC title. I mean, yet these promotions are supposed to be competing with each other. Like their titles aren't competing. Like Bellator's title doesn't compete with UFC's title. There will never be a UFC champion who's like, you know what? I think I'd rather go challenge myself for the Bellator title. It's not going to happen. You're never going to make as much money.
And I've seen some media outlets now talking about the PFL being the number 2 organization, where Bellator's been the number 2 organization.
What are the numbers? Show me how much money those companies are making per year. Show me what the viewership is for those companies. Because my ass, like number 2, but it's a number 2 that's miles and miles and miles, nowhere near. Like UFC easily controls 90% of the market. They have 90% of the top 10 fighters in every weight class. they bought the titles. They bought all the top titles that were competitive. Back when my heyday, back when I was fighting, it was more of a free market. You could say, screw this promoter. I don't like how he's treating me, because there were other promotions that had equally desirable belts, and the pay wasn't is off. You might get treated better. You might fight more times, get paid as much, and you had a belt that people respected just as much. Strikeforce, Pride, WEC, UFC, those were all interchangeable at the time.
And at the time, you had people coming in from Strikeforce and Pride that were obviously competing at the top level at the UFC. But at the same time, a lot of fighters did leave the UFC and then go to Strikeforce, where there was top level competition. Two great examples of that would be Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler. Again, that there was more of a window and a door, and you don't see that as much. And I'm just highly suspect that PFL.
Verdum left for a little bit, and then Verdum was in Pride and in Strikeforce and then UFC. So it wasn't the way it is. It wasn't the way it is now. And now it's so gross, because the entire structure of the sport, like every small promoter has to kiss ass to the UFC. They have to try to get on the Fight Pass. They have to try to be one of the people who gets fighters that passes them on to the UFC, rather than competing with the UFC. Promoters should be like, hey, we got this great guy. We're going to build him up and to be a number-1 contender, and we're going to beat and win the top title. And then we're the promoter who's got the champion.
And again, ESPN has a deal with PFL, so ESPN Plus has both.
And they got to deal with the UFC. And I'm pretty sure that there's some weird financial interests back and forth between UFC and PFL.
And I personally know, I could talk about it, I guess, publicly, Brandon Jenkins, who fought for Caged Aggression. It was the organization that I call Fights For. Strung together a couple wins. He's picked up over by the PFL, got a big win there, and then all of a sudden he's in the UFC. It does seem extremely interchangeable. That's almost a farm system.
And you have so if you get signed with a promoter who's not linked into that pathway, your career is going to flatline. It's going to be nothing, So now other promoters can't even get into the market. Like, it's anti-competitive, not just for the fighters, but for promoters. If you got a bunch of money and you're like, I want to put on a promotion, I want to start a promoting organization, you can't, because you can't get the top fighters because you're not plugged into that system. I mean, you have to if you want to do it, you're going to have to bend over backwards and then kiss Dana's ass. I'm cleaning it up. I talk a lot fouler on my show.
Are you sailoring it?
Yeah, you got to do something for Dana in order to get that opportunity to have fighters want to come and fight for your organization. It's not open sport. This is a production. It's a top to bottom owned production. There's a reality show, and the fighters, their prize is brain damage.
You heard it here first, folks. John Fitch, and still in that lawsuit with several other big names in the fight game. It should really let you know how long litigation, especially in this type of an operation, can span. We're talking years.
Yep. Well, I mean, we waited like a year and a half on a tuna anti-class lawsuit or antitrust class lawsuit or something, because there was a tuna price something. We're fixing prices, right? And that was robbing people, doing damage to people by stealing money from them. So they were waiting on a decision on that case to help them make the decision on this case. So that took like an extra year and a half.
Insanity, but reality. And again, now we're going to shift a little gears. Let's talk about a reality. I want to go to my thumbnail here for a second. George Bush, very much, in my opinion, a puppet that ran almost nothing. It was the administration behind him. Right here is signing the Patriot Act.
You know what I like to call W?
What's that?
He's dumb Reagan.
I mean, it's tough, man, because I think that like Reagan is kind of aggrandized because his father, I mean, George W. Bush's father, H.W., was very much behind that administration. A lot of people forget that Reagan
He was an actor. He was one of the first, in my lifetime at least, he was one of the first like actors. That's what a lot of these guys are. They're just puppets. They're groomed to be great speakers, and then somebody else is pulling the strings. I don't think Reagan did a damn thing. I don't think Obama did a damn thing. I don't think Clinton did a damn thing. They have other people pulling the freaking strings. They're just the face.
Agree. I mean, you look at even Clinton's relationship to Epstein and all these different, the Clinton Foundation having connections to them. There's always someone behind the scenes that's financing things, orchestrating things, and setting policies. And one of the reasons that I'm using this picture in particular as George Bush smirks while he signs into law the Patriot Act, an act that has not gone away and only expanded. Let's look at three people that are surrounding him. The man in the brown suit is Arlen Specter, lifelong politician and somebody who was on the Warren Commission. Now, on the left-hand side, leaning in with the glasses, that's Philip Zelikow. He would co-chair the 9/11 Commission and had deep ties to Condoleezza Rice, who was the national security advisor to the administration. But wait, there's one that I just can't help but point out. You go to the rather large gentleman on the right-hand side, leaning in with the glasses, and that's Dennis Hastert. And Dennis Hastert was the Speaker of the House at the time, a Republican, and
Convicted
later
pedophile, isn't he?
What's that? Labeled by a judge as a serial child molester.
Serial child molester. These are the people who W associated with. Serial child molester.
A serial child molester.
And then Epstein had a painting of George W. playing with paper planes and two Jenga block towers knocked over.
And the other, you talk about puppets, right?
Yeah, that's already too many ties to pedophiles right there.
Well, think about the other painting.
It's way too many.
He had the other painting of Clinton in a blue dress.
In the Lewinsky blue dress.
It sure seemed that way, didn't it? And again, it kind of showed that these guys, to him, were kind of jokes and puppets. That those weren't like, those were exclusive paintings that he had in there. It's a big deal. And when we look at what they did in the raid,
who's the artist? Ever forget who the artist was?
Actually, yeah, the artist is out there. I forget what the name is, but yes, the artist has some other. The artist also has a portrait of Obama, where Obama appears to have an extra finger, and I believe that Bush appears to have an extra finger in one of the paintings. I've gone a little bit down that rabbit hole, but just the fact that he had those things in there is very suspect. And because the tyranny has only grown, the restrictions have only grown, I wrote this piece for the River City Reader for the 21st anniversary of 9/11, and we're going to go into it section by section. So it is the top 5 domestic tyranny steps enacted by the U.S. government after September 11th, 2001. And in order, we are going to talk about the Patriot Act, the Department of Homeland Security, the creation of fusion centers, the expansion of the Five Eyes Alliance, and, of course, the signature reduction program. So let's get into the opening here. Following the deadly events of September 11, 2001, our country was in a state of shock, fear, and utter confusion. I don't think anybody can argue with that. How could such an event take place? How was our national security apparatus and military caught off guard? What can we do as a nation to ensure nothing like this ever happens again? Seizing on that atmosphere of tragedy and uncertainty, our government moves swiftly to take advantage of the deaths of thousands of American citizens on American soil. After all, according to Winston Churchill, one should never let a good crisis go to waste. Unfortunately, those in power immediately move to use this particular crisis to restrict our freedoms and empower authoritarianism under the false guise of security. And, we have founding fathers that warned us against this. They said, those that would trade their freedom for security deserve neither, folks. Deserve neither. But yet, we see these multiple fear campaigns continuing and people bending the knee to not only authoritarianism and the security state, but now also medical procedures. We don't want to get too far into medical procedures, everybody. But I think it's really important to show that they recycle this. It's called problem, reaction, solution, the Hegelian dialectic. And again, Fitch, we're pretty similar ages. We've seen this over and over and over again, where a crisis is immediately used to bring in more draconian measures. What are your feelings?
It's garbage. Leave me alone. I was talking, I had to talk about this the other day. I've got a fighter staying with me, Matthew Camilleri. He fights, in UK. He's from Malta. And we were talking about this, and I was like, you know what? He's like, yeah, we have governments. It's not bad. We get nice things from it. I was like, you know what I want from my government? You know what I want from my government? I want to be left alone. I want them to stay out of my business. I want them to never ask me questions. I want them to leave me. I want to buy my land, live on my land, and have them stay the F away from me. Stay away from my taxes. I don't want to pay for your roads because I don't really use them, and I think you do a shitty job with them. I don't want your education system because I think it's garbage. I mean, I just watched some 3-year-old get face stomped in a Texas fucking bathroom. Sorry, my language. Got a little heated on that. That was emotional for me. If that ever happens to your kid, you have my permission to go after that kid to beat him up and their parents.
Okay? I haven't seen this video.
I will not convict you of anything you do after that.
So this is
awful. It looked like a 6th grader beating up a 3rd grader. My son, my youngest, is a 3rd grader. Mm-hmm. Like, he threw him headfirst into the cement wall, punted him in the face, and there's like a room full of kids there. There's 3 other kids that were beating him up, left him there on the floor unconscious.
Disturbing.
Unbelievable.
Let's
talk. I got me fired up.
I guess
when I saw that, I see that shit pop up. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I
wanted to go hunt that kid down myself right now. That is a predator. That is not somebody I don't think can ever be rehabilitated into society. Eliminate them.
Well, again, when you're a kid, I think things can change, but at the same time, it certainly should be monitored. I think one of the big problems is, in a case like that, they may try to put that kid on drugs. He probably doesn't have the best family structure at home, right? And
Definitely.
instead of looking at that and changing those social norms, right? And actually, maybe saving society away from a career criminal, sociopath, psychopath, you're going to make it worse by putting them on SSRI drugs. Or I literally saw an ad for a new ADHD drug for 6 and over. I think it was like 6 to 18. I should have taken the damn picture because it's already killing me. I can't remember it. But of course, while they're reading off the side effects, suicidal thoughts and actions. You'd put your 6-year-old on a drug?
Mass murders can be a side effect of this drug. Totally safe though.
Totally fine. All right.
I get so sick. Like I on my Twitter, I'm trying to encourage people to fight and learn how to fight because there's just a lot of benefits that come from it. Not just because you won't get your ass kicked in the bathroom, but because you learn a lot about yourself. You learn about life by putting yourself in bad situations all the time. And it's one of the best things that I have ever seen for reducing people with anxiety. You take somebody who gets put into anxiety and has anxiety problems, you get them on a proper diet and you have them fight through those type of positions. It gets a lot better. I've seen it all the time. People I've talked to have experienced that, but there's so many people who are plugged in and just will not let go of, I'm a victim. I can't help it. Nothing will work. I have to take the drugs. And it's so annoying. I block people now when they go like, well, actually, sometimes you have a medical condition and you need it. I was like, you didn't need it for millions of years. We didn't need it for millions of years. Why do we need it now? We have these new illnesses that have popped up. Why have they popped up? Maybe we should find out why the new illnesses have popped up and deal with that instead of just covering up with bullshit medicine.
I don't disagree, my friend. I really believe that we have to step up to the plate and we have to expose the fact that we even have those studies now that show that the SSRIs do nothing for your depression.
You know a study that I saw recently, I saved it in my Twitter, but that creatine had a higher effect, a better effect than those SSRIs and antidepressants. Creatine.
Well, again, creatine,
one of the most safest supplements, most tested supplements available. It's the most tested supplement, the safest supplement that's out there. Mm-hmm. And it does better than these drugs.
And it was, by the way, heavily demonized at the time. A lot of people were talking about kidney issues, et cetera, et cetera. I would say that, creatine and NO are actually really great tools to build yourself up physically if you are going to go down that road of weight training and trying to get yourself.
They were saying through mental, like it was helping mental problems. Like regardless of whether or not you were lifting or trying to be an athlete, it was helping you mentally.
Interesting. I'd have to look at those.
I'll have to send you. I'll send you the links in the.
I'll
whatever.
definitely
'Cause
check it out.
I didn't read through all of it, but it was interesting.
So let's keep going. Let's talk about step one, passing the Patriot Act, because again, the Patriot Act is still in effect right now. The USAPA, formerly known as Uniting and Strengthening America by Providing Appropriate Tools Required to Intercept and Obstruct Terrorism Act of 2001. I know it's a mouthful, guys, but that's what the Patriot Act is. While this legislation was swiftly enacted in October following the events of 9/11, it was planned well before the 2001 terror attacks in New York and D.C. Like I said, problem, reaction, solution. Even the 1996 Anti-Terrorism Act that had passed in the wake of the Oklahoma City bombing did not contain elements that were proposed as far back as the Reagan administration due to their direct opposition to the Constitution. After 9/11, this was no longer an issue. So let me translate that for you. They had this stuff in the works since the Reagan administration. The vast majority of it, they couldn't even get passed with the legislation after the Oklahoma City bombing. They needed a bigger event. 9/11 was that bigger event. The Patriot Act directly assaulted the civil liberties of everyday Americans while empowering and legitimizing an already monstrously sized domestic surveillance system that had been in place prior to 9/11. For those that don't understand, Carnivore, Promise, Norris Insight systems, that was all in place, tracking, tracing, and databasing all digital communications and phone calls prior to 9/11. Okay, Snowden wasn't the revelation. This is the reality. There are a lot of great documents from Snowden. In fact, we'll get into X key score and things like that later in it. But again, it was already in place. They just had to legitimize it. This program was utilizing Norris data collection devices in conjunction with telecom companies to collect massive amounts of information on American citizens on behalf of the NSA. Exposed by the case of Hepting versus AT&T, most are still unaware of it to this day. So my point is that you now have this piece of legislation that is no longer questioned, that is renewed every single year. That
nobody even talks about it. Nobody even get out of my emails, get out of my phone, leave me alone. Like nobody even mentions it anymore.
No, people have largely accepted it. And if you will accept
it's an important lesson, guys. Anytime the government passes a new law, they're not going to give it up. They take away a right, they're not going to give it up. Income tax was supposed to be temporary.
And now they're arming the
IRS. Now I got to pay 46% of everything I earn on top of all the other fines, fees, and other bull crap I got to pay. They're probably extracting like 60% of my wealth before I get my piece of change.
And by the way, I just want to point this out. You talk about the tax systems out there. It's not just the United States. For instance, obviously Europe are some of the most heavily taxed people in the world. Well, guess what? The Queen just left all of her wealth to Prince Charles, now the King Charles, all right, the third.
Did I get taxed and distributed to the people?
So check it out. It's supposed to be a 40% tax on inheritance, right? The death tax, inheritance tax. They're exempt. The royal family is 100% exempt from the rules.
When you have that much inbreeding and murder in your family, I guess that gives you a pass. Is that what it is? You guys want that exempt status? You got to do a lot of in family homicide and incest.
And that's reality. I mean, again, it's rules for thee and not
and the people defending that crap, the crown and whatever. These people lied to your face. God chose us to lead you. God did it. God said we have to lead you because we're better. Our bloodline's better. God said so. So give us all your fucking money. Are you kidding me? What a garbage story. What a garbage story. The idea of any man like happily being ruled by anybody is just the grossest thing to me. It's gross. It's disgusting. Yes, master, tell me what to do. Be your own leader. Be your own master, man. You're supposed to create your own little tribe. Don't bow down to these freaking criminals. It's gross. They're just thugs.
I totally agree.
Thugs in gold chairs.
Gold chairs with jewelry and crowns and velvet everywhere. And I mean, again, you look at Prince Andrew, he actually got heckled. In fact, maybe we should play that really quick before we get
They
to
arrested a lady for having a sign that said, whatever, disband the royalty or whatever the hell. Did you see that?
I hadn't seen the sign, but I have this clip right here. Let's play it really quick. I saw that
picture on my timeline. They took her in. They arrested her.
Let's check it out. Let's see if it's.
You can't say mean things against the queen. God chose her. What are you kidding?
So basically, somebody yelled out, "Andrew, you're a sick old man," and they got arrested. Let's play it.
Hero.
Play it on loop again. Andrew, you're a sick old man. And not only a sick old man, and not only an associate of Epstein, but their arms dealer. Again, it gets back to security state and the military industrial complex and things that people aren't discussing.
And this guy, he's the one that said, "I don't sweat." Right? He's the one that said, I don't sweat. Because they had some kind of accusation about him being sweaty or whatever and molesting some kid. And he's like, "Oh, well, that's impossible. I don't sweat."
And at the same time, there was like, I mean, obviously that's a lie on its face, right? But there was
like,
a
there
multitude
was no pushback from the interviewer. Just
listen, there was
cool.
a literal, plethora of pictures of him clubbing and out and about, sweating his face off. And he's like, "No, I don't sweat. I have a medical condition." Blah, 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 blah. Again, they gaslight you.
Picture you sweating. There's pictures. Isn't there pictures of him with underage girls like that had come forward?
Well, they've got the picture of him with Virginia Giuffre Roberts. Mm-hmm. That was the big payout.
Ghislaine were standing there together, right?
Him and Ghislaine, yes, all them on vacation together in Europe while she's either 16 or 17 years old. But there are separate pictures of him with other females. I don't know whether they're underage or not, but sweaty as hell. I mean, as sweaty as it gets. Like Jason Bermas sweaty. I'm a sweaty guy. That he was dripping. Okay, dripping. All right, let's continue on. We've got Patriot Act. What's step 2? Creating the Department of Homeland Security. In the wake of the attacks, the mainstream media continually ran with the mantra that agencies such as the FBI, NSA, and CIA were not communicating with each other properly, and that a new agency needed to be created or another terror attack was on the horizon. Enter DHS. Founded in November of 2002, in which historians and government watchdogs alike pointed to the fact that similar agencies had been created in the past and things didn't go well for its citizenry. Weird. We need only look to the recent revelations that the Department of Homeland Security has directly targeted Americans under the guise they are a domestic terror threat. For example, in 2020, DHS stated that domestic violent extremism was presenting the most persistent and lethal threat, a far cry from protecting our homeland from the likes of Al-Qaeda or ISIS. They flipped the script, John, and now this same apparatus is going after what? Parents concerned at school boards. They're now talking about Christian nationalists. So you can't believe in Jesus Christ, which, again, believe what you want out there, and also be a nationalist, in other words, saying America first, my nation first, without not only being a racist and a bigot, but a domestic terror threat under an agency that did not even exist prior to 9/11. Really securing the homeland, eh, Fitch?
It's gross. So it's such a clown show, man. Like, but what do you do? What do you do? I mean, we keep trying to wake people up. And you know what? I think a lot of people are awake because when you sit down and you talk to a person, you know, they get it.
Well, I think there's not many people out there that are
news media lies, the algorithms, the tech platforms, they're all rigged. Like they're there to make you feel like you're the outsider. They're there to make you feel like you're alone. They want to keep you in your house. They want to keep you away from other people. That's why they shut everything down for COVID. They wanted to separate people. They don't want you talking Because you sit down and talk to people, you start realizing, oh shit, like they question everything the way I question everything.
Yeah, you have way more in common with your neighbor.
Psyop. It's just them controlling the algorithms and pushing out the content they want you to think is popular. It's not organic.
I can't agree more. You know, it's a directed effort, and we're going to talk about step 3, opening up fusion centers throughout the country. Many people are unaware that after the release of the 9/11 Commission report in 2004, fusion centers began to open up around the country as a collaborative effort of 2 or more agencies that provide resources, expertise, and information to the center with the goal of maximizing their ability to deter, prevent, investigate, and respond to criminal and terrorist activity. Notice that these centers are responding to not just terrorist activity, but also criminal activity, massively increasing their jurisdiction and overall power. The DHS fact sheets read in part, fusion centers are owned and operated, owned and operated by state and local entities with the support from the federal partners in the form of deployment personnel, training, technical assistance, exercise support, security clearances, let me repeat that one, security clearances, and connectivity to federal systems technology, grant funding. So this is the Track Trace Database Society. And if you look at the 2 films, we're going to read this section in a second, Zeitgeist, the movie, which has a piece of my film, Loose Change, in it, and America, Freedom to Fascism, which exposed the IRS and the tax code system, they were the ones that were the enemy, the enemy in these fusion center documents. Concerned citizens and independent media began to ring the alarm bells all the way back in 2009 when a report from the Missouri Information Analysis Center was leaked to the public. In it, symbols such as the Gadsden flag, Molon Lobby, and even variations of the American flag were specifically targeted, as well as documentary films Zeitgeist and America, Freedom to Fascism. Months prior to that, they had released a report specifically warning about various anarchist organizations and anti-police brutality group Cop Watch. So Cop Watch was basically, it wasn't all about racism and everybody's inherently racist and defunding the police. There was a problem and is a problem with authoritative figures abusing their power and brutally beating and sometimes killing people. That happens. There is corruption. They went after that group, Cop Watch. What would these fusion centers, what would these fusion centers turn up if they focused their collaborative resources on detecting and preventing and investigating and responding to criminal activity within our own government agencies and elected offices? But that's not what they're doing. Let's talk about that division. They've taken a legitimate issue of police brutality. I would point to the Eric Gardner case where the guy's selling loose cigarettes ends up getting choked out, right? And choked to death, like saying he can't breathe.
Well, he wasn't in good shape and he had like a heart attack or whatever, but like it never should have happened.
No,
he was selling loose cigarettes. Why they took like 6 guys to arrest him.
And meanwhile, now we have a system in New York with catch and release where there's more criminals there than ever.
Have you heard Illinois' new
it's right across the river? It's for those that don't know, it is taking New York's catch and release and saying, "Hold my fucking beer."
Yes, it is the most. They're no longer allowed to remove trespassers from your property. So if somebody decides to set up camp inside your shed in the backyard, all the police can do is give them a ticket.
It's the craziest thing.
You have to find a way to lawfully remove them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you try to forcibly remove them, now you're arrested for assault and battery or something. Now you're getting charged because somebody broke into your shed and started living.
And I know that sounds insane, but some of the other things they're putting out there is that they want to, again, have no cash bail for crimes.
No cash bail. Second degree murder. Second degree murder. You go in, they process you, you leave.
That's insane.
If you skip bail, not bail, if you skip whatever is it scale or parole? If you skip parole, they're not allowed to look for you for 48 hours. 48 hours. The cop that was talking about it was saying that you could literally drive to Alaska in that amount of time.
And you're not wrong. Like, again, this is a disturbing trend where big cities like New York and Chicago are then taking, their what people would call woke politics and legislation and putting it throughout the entire state to decimate that state, to decimate the rule of law, to make regular citizens criminals, and then empower actual criminal behavior and activity. It's insane. It is insane. So let's get into step 4 here. And what you're looking at above, this is X key score. And these are part of the documents that came through the big Snowden dump. And this is the Five Eyes Alliance program. And this shows you phone numbers, email address, login, user activity, which is everything, including keystrokes, in this database of metadata and full logs that are accessible not only by the United States, but as you read above, it's Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, as well as Great Britain. Okay, so again, this is them sharing. And what did they do? The Five Eyes had been around for a while, but after 9/11, forget about it. The origins of this program date all the way back to World War II, but it wasn't until the infamous Snowden leaks that the world began to see its vast reach. The United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom had been illegally, let me say this again, illegally gathering information on populaces and sharing that intel with each other in an effort to fight global terrorism. In stark contradiction to what the public had been told previously, they were indeed being spied on with every tool imaginable and without due process. Snowden would later state on the Joe Rogan podcast that he, quote, gathered evidence of what he believed to be criminal and unconstitutional activity on the part of the government and gave it to journalists. Unfortunately, to this day, the public still does not have all the documents collected by Snowden. I think that's a big problem. We all think that we got all the Snowden links. We did not. We got a piece of them. I think I'm pretty critical of Glenn Greenwald and his partner for that. In fact, they did a documentary film while they were getting these leaks, and that won, I believe, the Academy Award for documentary films that year. But it's been highly glossed over that we only saw a small portion of those documents. And I would imagine, John, that what is in the documents we haven't seen may be even more horrific.
Way worse.
It's got to be, right?
Yeah, I don't think for a second it's going to be like, oh, well, see, it wasn't that bad. Like, no, there's horrific stuff in there. It's
absolutely there. And now to one of the things I've been harping on for almost, a year and a half. This came out in May of last year. We're already in September. And it is inside the military secret undercover army, a.k.a. Step 5, make security an art form with the very loose title of signature reduction. Even, well-meaning, quote-unquote, patriots and people in the alternative media have not picked up on this story and don't understand that even when they do read it, we're not just talking about online bots, of which there are plenty, or online information warfare. We are talking about real people in real organizations working on behalf of what I would refer to as the shadow government or continuity of government program outside of the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and the laws that we're supposed to abide by. In a bombshell article titled Inside the Military Secret Undercover Army, published by Newsweek in May of 2021, we learned of a program in which some 60,000 people now belong to the secret army, many working under masked identities and in low profile, all part of a broad program called signature reduction. The force, more than 10 times the size of the clandestine elements of the CIA, carries out domestic, and foreign assignments, both in military uniforms and under civilian cover. In real life, like I said, in real life and online. Sometimes hiding in private businesses and consultancies. Some of them household name companies. If that were not alarming enough, the program has been around for more than a decade with little to no oversight. This gigantic clandestine force challenges U.S. laws like the Geneva Conventions. Well, that's beyond U.S. law. The Code of Military Conduct and basic accountability. Let me repeat that again. Basic accountability. While doing so, it utilizes unparalleled secrecy and top-tier military technology to carry out its operations, which are currently unknown to the public. These are but a few of the overreaches within our own government. On the 21st anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, it is high time we took a closer look at these programs and actions and held them to a much higher level of scrutiny. If these programs cannot comply with our Constitution and Bill of Rights, then they need to be abolished and defunded altogether. After all, could there be anything more patriotic than this? And again, you can get that whole article over at the River Cities Reader.
And our tax money is what pays for it. My labor, your labor, is what pays for these people to spy on us. It turns us into criminals.
It absolutely does. And
you're
we're paying for our destruction.
You're working, you're busting your ass. You're busting your hump trying to make that money to fund them to do this to you.
It's pretty outlandish, Fitch, but it's the real deal.
Sad, man.
As we get to the tail end of the broadcast, I do want to talk about johnfitch.gumroad.com and the strength and fitness package that you're putting together. Now, you can find everything John Fitch at johnfitch.net, but this is a new program you got going on. Talk about it.
Yeah, I have a bunch of fitness stuff I have put together online, and you can check all that out at that link or the Gumroad channel or page. My fitness package I put together, it gives you the Fitch Smash Strength, which is my lifting routine with iron, the resistance band course, which is the same program but with resistance bands, my 12-minute bike cardio, my meal plan. You'll get an hour consultation. I also give you a link to the Telegram group. I have a Telegram group. You can get on that channel, and then it's an accountability channel. So, you're feeling weak, you want to have that cookie, you want to have that snack, you can always chime in on that chat and then ask for help, so you can just walk away from the cookie and stay away from those empty calories. But yeah, I've got that up and available right now because, I can't always show technique through the screen. I kind of need to be in person, but I can get you in shape. I can give you that fighter look, that fighter body remotely.
While we're talking about fighters, I'm not sure if you've seen the news. It's broken the last 24 hours. But unfortunately, Elias Theodora, I mean, I'm butchering his last name. But I watched him on The Ultimate Fighter come up. He has passed from, I believe, fast-acting cancer at the age of 34. It really, when I see something like that, it really lets me know that our time on this planet is limited. What are you going to use it for? You don't know when your last day is going to be. There's not always a tomorrow. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't want to utilize the now and the tomorrow to build yourself up. You absolutely do. But you also have to realize it's not forever. This ride ends for everybody, no matter what others are telling you, like Jared Kushner, who I don't know if you've seen it yet, but literally said that he's going, his generation is the one that's going to live forever or be the last one to die. And you can't make it
man.
up.
If you could live forever, life would suck. Your life would suck. It would, because you're gonna be a slave forever then. With how things are looking right now and how more and more freedom is taken every day, like you living forever means you're going to be a slave to somebody else forever.
We've been talking a lot about obviously the transhumanist agenda, and my next Clay Clark event is going to be from transgender to transhuman. We've been playing a lot of clips. Are you aware of Martine Rothblatt?
I don't know if I am aware of that name.
So check it out.
I'm not the greatest with names, though, but I might.
This is the wildest thing, right? This is feminism on steroids, in my opinion. Highest earning woman executive in U.S. speaks about gender in the workplace. The only problem is Martine is a biological man. The black woman next to Martine, is actually someone that Martine has recreated, John, as a robot and digital entity. Martine has founded their own religion. It's called TerraSim. So the Terrasim religion, as people can see, this is a movement and foundation. Martine openly talks about cyber consciousness, uploading your consciousness, is also a speaker. We've played the clips. We don't have the time to do it now, but you can check out my broadcast on that. Spoke at the Washington Post Transformers Conference, sponsored by Lockheed Martin and Samsung. And the other thing is that you look at this person, and they actually wrote the book, John. Are you ready? From Transgender to Transhuman, a manifesto on the freedom of form, and Virtually Human, the promise and peril of digital immortality. This person is also, by the way, John, part of the human.
I had, this is okay. So this is frustrating because I had to sit my son down because he's been getting this nonsense from people. He's like, oh, they're gonna be able to upload our thoughts into robots, and I'm gonna be a robot and I can live forever. I was like, no. I was like, first off, God doesn't want you to be a robot, right? I was like, this is.
I love you, Fitch. Like, I freaking love.
They're gonna try to. They're gonna. I was like, I told him, I was like, they're not gonna really be able to transport your consciousness into a machine. They might be able to get a lot of your thoughts, a lot of your speech patterns, a lot of the stuff that you do, but everything's gonna be mimicked, and it's gonna be AI. But people are going to want to believe it's real. People are going to want to believe it's real because they don't want to lose their loved one. But really, you're just offering yourself up to suicide and eliminating yourself as you put yourself into this. It's not really you uploading your conscious, your soul. It's just a bunch of like sound bites and pieces of things you've said or thought strung together randomly by artificial intelligence.
You're damn right. And here's the thing. While that, again, United Therapeutics, the Human Genome Project, while they sell us on this digital consciousness, they're going to try to utilize real technology to stay in these physical bodies and live forever. Life extension, de-aging. That's why Kushner talks about it. That's not for us. The virtual universe is for us. And like you said, no matter how much, and by the way, for them to get an accurate copy of you, it has to go beyond just the track trace database society we live in today, and that under the skin internet of bodies, in other words, the human brain interfaces, so they can track, trace, and database your heart rate, your breathing patterns, what you're thinking, and then fool you into believing somehow that's going to be your consciousness that lives on forever in some kind of a manufactured robot or, digital creation in a virtual world. It is the big lie. And you're, like you said, your son's in 3rd grade. So what's that make, about 10?
8.
My God, I'm way off.
Fifth grader is 10.
Okay. Yeah. So again, think about that. They're teaching this to 8 and 10-year-olds as a reality.
Yep.
Meanwhile, do you think Jared Kush, Mr. Billionaire, do you think the Kush is going to upload his consciousness, or do you think he's talking about actually physically living forever? So for the Predator class, they actually believe that they will stay in these bodies and that these bodies can be regenerated through actual medical technology, while they trick you into thinking that your consciousness through this track trace database system and the internet of bodies and accepting all of these different techno-fascist whether it be injections or implants, you're going to live forever and you're going to be whatever you want in the multiverse. And I have other clips up, and we only got 5 minutes, so I'm not going to do it. I literally have this video, John, of an individual who has an antenna coming out of their head. Okay, from the same conference, the Transformers conference. I know you're looking.
I mean, I've seen people with cranial implants in the last 10 years, ex-soldiers who have blown up and stuff, who have wires sticking out of their head.
Well, you know what? We're going to do it. We're going to do it really quick. We're going to bring it up over here. We're going to bring it here, and I'm just going to hit it here. Tell me that the transgender/trans species isn't a real thing after you watch this lunatic.
But that humans don't have. So we are in a stage in history that we can actually design what species we want to be. I consider myself a trans species because I'm adding senses and organs that other species have. And you can add many, many more senses that other species have and organs that other species have. And we'll start seeing this in the 20s because it's now growing. It's happening underground. There's already many surgeons that are willing to do the surgery anonymously, in the same way that in the 50s and 60s, transgender operations were being done a bit underground. Now cyborg surgeries are being done a bit underground, but in the end, bioethical committees will also accept that cyborg surgeries should be allowed for everyone that wants to extend their perception of reality, at least to the level of...
You know who those doctors are? You know that weird doctor in Simpsons?
Dr. Nick? Dr. Nick Riviera?
Hey, guys. Yeah, that's who you're talking about. That's the guys doing these operations, people.
But my point is,
people doing the butt injections with the fucking cement and stuff.
This person is openly talking about how the transgender movement was underground, and then bioethics committees, lawyers.
These are people, this type of person is somebody who hates himself so much. He hates himself so much. Absolutely the most insecure person, hates himself, never probably been really loved. So now he's got to like make himself important by pretending he's some kind of bug.
It's wild. It's totally wild. We're wrapping up on an hour. Guys, you could support me with the links down below. You can buy me a coffee. You can do the Rockfin thing, $9.99 a month. I do want to announce, if you didn't catch my last video, I am going to be having an exclusive video over at Red Voice Media every single Friday, every single week. I'm extremely excited about that because I'm trying to reach new people. I'm trying to expand this show. And that audience doesn't really know about the transgender to transhuman agenda. They don't quite understand.
There's a lot of people. I do, I'm in like the red pill community, and I do a show on Saturdays a lot of times called Rule Zero, and we talk about intersexual issues. And that's some of the things that those guys don't really comprehend either, is that a lot of this trans stuff, a lot of this like blurring the line between men and women is pushing towards transhumanism.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, again, the most powerful transgender person in the world, Martine Rothblatt, literal billionaire, again, Human Genome Project, CEO, United Therapeutics. Martine started Sirius Radio, is telling you and writing books on the subject. Meanwhile, I have Martine talking about how they want to recruit young girls to be programmers. And basically, they want to get you when you're kids. They want to blur the lines not only between gender, but general biology, and they want to trick you into this virtual universe. Before we go, John, tell everybody how they can support you, where they can find everything John Fitch.
Yeah, go to johnfitch.net, sign up for the newsletter, check out the Gumroad, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. I'm restricted on Instagram. They'll send you a warning screen before you follow me on Instagram, John Fitch Smash. And they won't let you tag me. They won't let you share my stuff. So please go to the Instagram and to give these tech losers a big middle finger, because I posted memes. I posted funny memes like Spider-Man in front of the thing saying, the three Spider-Men pointing at each other. That was one of the ones I got a strike for. And then I put up another Spider-Man one. I guess maybe they don't like Spider-Man, where he's like, the people who put us $30 trillion into debt want to give you a credit score. I got a false information strike on that. So I guess I'm starting to think I might have to actually do something on Rumble.
Well, look at this. Yeah, no, you have to get on Rumble. Listen, they've been pretty good to me. We'll talk a little bit behind the scenes, and maybe we'll put something together exclusively for this. Because you said that, and Meta owns Instagram and Facebook. I wanted to point out two things here. Obviously, we've done this before, but defining them and building the metaverse. Well, guess what? They put out an article in August that's no longer there that was talking about how kids expect to be superheroes and about human brain interfaces. And look at that. It was called Ethics, Not Technological Limits, Will Be the Guiding Factor for an Augmented Age. And all of a sudden, it's not on their website anymore. I wonder if it got a little bad press. Huh. How about that? We're going to have to bring that up on the Internet Archive. Fitch, I'm so glad we got to do this. I will see you next week for some more Mixed Martial Mindset.
Yep, you got it. All right, guys. Check you later.
Later on, everybody.